Hello, and welcome to the Copper State Marching Podcast, sponsored by Arizona Marching Band Association, AZMBA. My name is Martin Hebda, the AZMBA Director of Education and Outreach.
And I'm Aaron Vogel. The AZMBA Copper State podcast was created to bring together the Arizona marching band community and to connect, educate, and entertain those involved in this wonderful activity.
We're just coming off of the AMEA Regional Honor Band Festival. Aaron, I know you were a conductor of the South Central region. How was that experience for you?
It was great. It was also Valentine's Day, so I raced back here to Phoenix to try to make it back to see the wife and kids. But it was such an honor. So this was the South Central region, which is Tucson area schools and in the greater Tucson area, and the kids were a blast. The band chairs, which was Renee Schmucker and Christy Blut, amazing. And then I had a couple of directors playing on the concert. Damon Nepper, he was playing percussion on a song. One of the songs needed 7 percussionists, and we had 6 in region. And then Carrie Hester played piano for me, which was wonderful. It was great. I just absolutely had a blast. So, how was your region?
Our region was great. I heard from people in your region that they really enjoyed your conducting there, and the students really enjoyed the experience as well. So, congrats to you. I'm sure you're going to be getting calls from all over the state here coming up. We had Jennifer Hamilton in our region. I'm in the Southeast region, and it was a great experience as well. My students did well, and they enjoyed the experience. What was some of the literature that you programmed?
Oh, so for the rep, I opened with a new-ish piece. It's by Pink Zebra, which is a pseudonym for a composer. So I'm not sure actually who the composer is. And John Gomez did it with the Arizona Wind Symphony in a previous concert cycle this season. I play tuba in his group, and I loved playing it. It was a great opener for the Wind Symphony. So did that with them. Kids really seemed to like it. We played A Longford Legend by Robert Sheldon, which is one of my all-time favorites. 3 movements, a really great chart, and really interesting stories behind each of the tunes. It's a collection of Irish ballads, and the ballads are pretty wild. Are you familiar with A Longford Legend?
I've heard it, but I've never conducted it or even performed it.
It's really, really well done. I heard it my very first year teaching. I was in North Carolina, in Greensboro, North Carolina, and in North Carolina, the school districts are counties. So the Guilford County schools, or the Raleigh County schools. So every county has its own public school district, and then in our school, in our county or in our district, then there was an honor band, and the honor band was high school and middle school. So I was teaching middle school full time, and I had middle school kids there, and got to hear that rep, and then I heard the high school band, and the high school honor band was playing Along for Legend, and I just adored it from the very first time I heard it. So happy to do that here with the South Central region. We played another one of my all-time favorites, one of the movements of Julie Giroux's Symphony No. 4, Bookmarks from Japan. It's the slow, pretty movement,
Right.
and featured a flute, an alto flute, a harpist from the South Central region, and then we used that Carrie, the director at Flowing Walls High School, band director,
Nice.
wonderful pianist, and she played piano on that. And then we ended with a new piece to me called "Of Endless Miles and Empty Rafts." It's by Michelle Fernandez. And so for any of the band directors listening on the call, check out Michelle Fernandez if you haven't heard that name yet. Wonderful composer, based in Miami, Florida, South Florida, and she has a number of jazz band charts. She has this tune of Endless Miles that was fantastic. It was really, really well done, and it takes the students through a journey of a storyline also. So directors, check out Michelle Fernandez if you get a chance.
Well, and I remember you were mentioning her to me previously, so I'll be checking her out for sure. So awesome! I'm sure all the regions had excellent experiences throughout the regional experience. Before we get to our guests today, we would like to give a shout out to all of our sponsors. AZMBA would like to thank our sponsors: Arizona Cardinals Football Club, The Band Shop, Bravgo Media, Encore Gifts, Forte Athletics, Instrumental Music Center, Mac Pack, Milano's Music, Music Celebrations International, Music for All, Pieces of Flair, Scoreboard Fundraising, Show Dots, Tide Dry Cleaners, and Yamaha. Thank you for supporting AZMBA.
In this episode, we will be talking to our 2025 Class 3A and 4A class champions. We want to welcome back to the Copper State podcast Leo Werner and Jason Bullock, the band directors at Hamilton High School, which is this year's 3A class champion. Leo and Jason, thanks so much for joining us, and the day after Valentine's Day. So we wanted to check in with you and how your region band experience went yesterday before we get into the heart of our podcast. So how are you doing? How did it go yesterday?
It went really well. Our students had a positive experience. You're always, I think, a bit concerned until they, climb into the bus to go to lunch that first day. And then you can get a sense of how they're relating to the clinician and the repertoire. And when that buzz is positive, then you know it's going to be a good weekend. And the performances were excellent.
Yeah, who were the clinicians this year for the Southwest region?
Um, Kasler was doing the orchestra, and then Duncan was the band.
Okay, ASU, Team ASU there, and I did see that online, so that's great. Any particular pieces of repertoire that were real memorable to you or your kids?
Oh, they were honestly, they were kind of buzzing about all of them at lunch, and then they get into little debates about which one is their favorite. As a percussionist, I have my own biases, so if the percussionists were busy, then they were happy, and so was I. But it was good repertoire overall.
So both of you are at Hamilton. You're our class champions. Before we maybe dive into your show, maybe give us a quick background on how long you've been at Hamilton, and maybe a little bit about your journey to getting to Hamilton.
Sure. I'm in my third year there, but I've been in the classroom since 1989. So there's a pretty big library behind me of lessons learned. But it's not necessarily just about the years spent, but kind of the efficiency from seeing all those different challenges and trying to come up with solutions. So my role in our partnership is to try and provide that foresight, and Jason is kind of the daily energy and the implementation to keep the engine moving.
So this is year 4 for me at Hamilton. I coming out of COVID, I taught elementary school for 2 years, which I knew getting into it wasn't really my vibe that I was wanting to do. But needed my first teaching job to get that stuff under my belt. So yeah, this is like I said, year 4. Year 4 at Hamilton, year 2, or sorry, year 6. Hello, total.
Yeah, that's really cool, and it's such a great benefit to have two band directors on campus. How does that work inside of the school day? Is it completely separate classes, or do you have some where you're doing a true team teaching model?
Some of them are separate. When I stepped into the program, the admin was gracious enough to let us quickly kind of shuffle a few of the responsibilities. So the 2 jazz classes and the jazz program, if you will, became Jason's purview. And then the concert groups are mine. Although we do team teach the 2 concert classes, and part of that is official. I think one of the classes, we're both teachers of record. The other one just happens to be opposite Jason's prep hour, and he's gracious enough to utilize some of his time during that period to step in and assist. And then we share responsibility for the marching band. In the spring, where marching band used to exist on our teaching load, I'm the teacher of record for the indoor drum line, and he's the teacher of record for the guard.
Do you do marching band within the school day, or is that a exterior of the class period?
It's a completely outside of the school day. The placeholder in the scheduling matrix, they call it an 8th hour. So we have 6 periods. Some students take a 0 hour for additional credits, or a 7th hour. Putting it marching band as well as guard and drumline as an 8th hour um, holds that spot in the schedule, but it also serves almost as an indicator to the counselors that it makes for a really quick shorthand if we need to add somebody to marching band or to drumline or to winter guard, that when they see that 8th hour tag, it has no impact on the rest of their schedule. So getting them in or moving them about is pretty easy.
Yeah, cool. Well, let's go back to the fall then and think about marching band. So, congratulations, great success again for the program. Or talk about your show a little bit. So, what was it about? What was the title? What source music did you use? Give us a little bit of a flashback in time.
Jason really is the idea guy, so I'm going to kick that one over to him.
So our show this past fall was called The Lost City. We took a lot of inspiration from like the El Dorado, like Lost City of Gold type stuff. And we used the music from Jumanji as well as Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Tyler was kind of our like ballad into closer. And the way the whole kind of conversation started, when we were talking about Holding Out for a Hero was, hey, we need like I came to Leo, I was like, hey, let's do this as the closer. And Leo goes, yeah, but have you seen that clip from Shrek 2? Where the fairy godmother like it starts out as a ballad and then it becomes like the up-tempo thing. So that kind of morphed into like the ballad and the closer. But the overall concept was the Lost City of Gold. However, the twist we added to it was that the color guard was kind of like the explorers or the leaders of the expedition. And then when they found the Lost City, it turns out it was cursed. So there was a really cool moment at the end of the show where all the backdrops rotated, and rather than it just having like the continuous temple on one side, it had the temple with a bunch of skulls on it. And then the last thing that happened in our show, or how it ended, was the backdrops kind of moved forward to our trumpet soloist, and like the doors of the temple closed and made a complete skull image. So the the wind and percussion students all wore these like printed tops that had like very like old school compass on one side, but on the back it was the old school compass with a skull. And throughout the show, we had students at various points who would like turn around backwards to kind of foreshadow what was happening or what was coming. And then by the time the end of the closer hit, the whole band was backfield, and all you saw was the skulls. And Guard had these giant gold flags that ran into the temple, and like the doors shut on the trumpet soloist as he played his last note, and that was how the show ended.
I bet the students really bought into that, probably from the start.
Yeah, in general, not just the students, but also audiences and ultimately, right, the judging panels, because we have a tendency to take cinematic music and find a way to do something a little bit quirky or unexpected with it. So there's both an intellectual and an emotional kind of pull, so that we get something that's really engaging. And we try to move everyone, right? The students, the audience, and the adjudicators away from judging and into enjoying.
Mm.
And we've had a fair amount of success with that. And that part of it, um, regardless of the theme or the costumes or whatever the props look like in a given year, that seems to be the deepest appeal to the students, because there's always going to be opinions about which show is cooler. And if you got a kid who's going on their 4th year, oh, I really love my sophomore year, or I like this one or that one. If we can kind of refocus always on helping the performers, the audience, and the adjudicators to tell this particular story, and to move out of the technical aspect and into the enjoyment of it, then it clicks.
Yeah, and having a recognizable tune that people
Mhm.
know, like Holding Out
Exactly.
for Heroes, really helps with that. And I'm thinking now, you probably had some like in our generation who remember that from the '80s, in the
Mhm.
Footloose movie,
Right.
and then I'm wondering, and obviously in the adjudication and the parents community also, I'm wondering, did the kids recognize that tune from Shrek? Did that cross into their generation in that way?
I think so. I don't know if Jason
Cool.
has a different spin on it, but I don't think they would know it from any earlier than Shrek.
Yeah.
Whereas the other folks in the audience who are our age, yeah, they got it. Jason, did you have a different take on that?
No, and it's kind of funny because we have a large number of our students who will take whatever source music we're using and create a playlist and kind of share it out. And it's grown over the last several years with all of the music. There's a couple of the students who didn't quite know what it was, like what the song was, and I was like, "Oh, from Shrek." And I showed them the clip, and they went, "Oh, that." And of course, like Leo and I joke because I'm like the young guy. But like, I obviously Shrek was the thing that I remember it from, but I've seen Footloose and I've heard the song a bunch anyways, so it's kind of like, okay, cool, this works for me too. And once the students finally remembered that, yeah, it's from Shrek, and we watched the clip and whatever, they were really like excited about it.
Students these days, they really get into the music and they do their research and they find every version that they possibly can and they make those playlists, which I think is fantastic because our goal is that they research the music and they listen to the source and understand, where it's coming from. So I think that's cool that they do that.
Thinking back to your last season, you had this again another great success. If you could, pinpoint any one variable, or if you had to pick one variable that you feel like helped your band be successful, for the other directors and staff that are listening on the pod here, is there one thing that you can think of, either Jason or Leo, that hey, no matter what else, you got to make sure you do this. This really helped our band last year.
I would think that it's kind of emphasizing or connecting the dots for the students to understand really what the class system is, right? So over the last 4 years, I've been able to lead programs to championships in 1, 2, and 3A. And when the students realize and embrace that the same standards apply regardless of the school size
Mm-hmm.
or the instrumentation or the uniforms or the staff or the book or the whatever, um, they start to instead focus on the process, right? Getting that championship culture that can remain consistent across a division, can remain consistent across the roster, right? The changing roster as people graduate, new people are in, can be consistent across staff changeover, right? Because I'm only in year 3, Jason in year 4. Um, there's just always the constant of change that's inherent in what we do. Um, Kids are meant to graduate. Staff members, maybe even ones that grew up in the program, will graduate from college and go off and get their own gigs, or they advance in whatever their professional field actually is outside of the activity, and they're
Mm-hmm.
no longer available. So there's always this sense of maybe unease or unrest that can make them nervous. And if they can settle into the idea that the class system is there for a reason. Here's the rubric behind the system. Here's how we're going to be evaluated. Here are the goals. And then again, back to like creating that product and helping people to enjoy that product, both as the performers, the people in the audience, the adjudicators. I don't know if Jason might see it a little bit differently or have another perspective to lend to that. Jason?
I think like adding to the culture aspect of it, in the last 3 years that Leo and I have been at Hamilton together, we've put a lot of focus on like creating a culture that's like, hey, the process from year to year might change, for lack of a better term, depending on like staff changes or roster changes or whatever, but who Hamilton marching band is as at its core doesn't change. Like the core values we talk about a lot. I think there's, for me, outside of that part of it, like the I think the real turning point for the students anyways was like finally being able to perform the show. Because we're a year-round school, our first so we do a startup camp is what we call it at the end of May, like right after Memorial Day. And then the students have the entire summer off, but our marching band camp started this year or this past season on July 6th or something like that,
Wow.
because we're a year-round school. So we start in the middle of July, And when you're rehearsing that much, coming out of band camp in the beginning of the school year, and your first football game isn't until beginning of September,
Hmm.
it tends to drag a little bit for the students. And then finally, they perform the show or however much of the show we have for the home stands, and then it's finally like, okay, cool, we're in it now, like we get it. And then we also do, again, because of the year-round thing, we get 2 weeks off for fall break. So we always do like a fall break band camp for a couple days. And then we always end that week with another competition. So that's another point where the students especially like kick it into the next gear, for lack of a better term, and like, okay, cool, we got to get all this stuff done, let's do it. So yeah, I would say definitely the first football game and probably that fall break band camp are the two big turning points outside of like the cultural changes that we've been um not like pushing but committing to as an ensemble.
Do you usually do your band camp the second week or the first week of that fall break?
We try to push it towards the second week if possible, so that families can try to plan for trips and vacations, or just staycations, whatever they've got going. We really do want them to have time, and we spend a lot of energy considering the workload that we're asking of the families, even if
Hmm.
they're, whether they're a super involved volunteer booster parent or somebody that's just got to drive the kid to rehearsal. um, when I arrived at Hamilton, before I even had a chance to meet people face to face, I pushed out a Google survey of like three basic questions. What are you most proud of in this program? What are things that you'd like to see improved? And what do you need me to know about you? And it came through loud and clear from the parents, that their time, like letting them out on time. If rehearsal's meant to end at this time, then that's when rehearsal ends, and that they're not sitting in a parking lot waiting. But then back to the fall break thing, or even the summer break. That first summer, we kind of inherited and maintained the older regular rehearsals all through the summer, but they needed a break, and the families did, and quite honestly, so did directors, and so did staff. So we try to push we pick whatever event will align with that final Saturday of fall break, and we don't do the camp until that Thursday and Friday, so that we can try to carve out time where they aren't doing band, because they also need time away from one another, right? It can be
Hmm.
pretty intense, and um, a lot of togetherness, in air quotes, right? From the rehearsals to the bus rides to the time in the rehearsal room, and a little bit of time away is good.
Yeah, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? So
Exactly.
then they're like, "Oh, good to see you again." Where
Mhm.
10 days ago it was like, I really can't see this person again, or I'm gonna freak out.
Mhm.
You have real intentional mindset to the process, to the scheduling, how to balance the parents and the band, and balance the students in the band. So that's really really great. Wondering about the timeline of that, those decisions about the next year's schedule, about next year's show for the other directors and staff on the call. When does that happen? Has that already now happened in the spring? Are you coming up to a design process?
Um, the show reveal actually happened at what we call Bandsgiving. So that's another tradition that the Hamilton program had when we arrived, and we've tried to just kind of tweak it a little bit to put it on a day that allows the majority of kids to attend. Um, and At that particular event, the student leaders are able to do like the fun, and or silly awards that they give to one another. Uh, we watch the show video. It's a brief commemoration. When band is what it is, it's year long, and we barely stop to take a breather or acknowledge the milestones before we dig into the very next thing. Right, marching season is barely done, and we're on to the winter concert. The winter concert's barely over, and we've got regionals, and it's just never ending. So the Bandsgiving has filled that spot. And then the end of the Bandsgiving evening is to do the show reveal. So throughout the course of the fall, as we look at what's working and where we could do better, we start to try to put an overlay on what would this look like next year and what kind of show is going to fit, right? The rising freshmen, the current eighth graders, that's a mystery. We are in touch frequently with our junior high, and we've got a general sense. But how do we overlay? If we peel away the Lost City this year, what do we put on top of that and make it better for next year? So those things are happening. The Wins book is currently being drafted. I spoke with Mike Epping over the weekend a little bit, and we're going to sit down in a couple weeks to listen to the opener and progress from there. So it's happening behind the scenes, but it's for me anyway. It's an outgrowth of what's working well and what needs our additional attention. Like when we're in the moment, we kind of toss that stuff into a draft calendar for next year, and we start looking at what might be a better fit for the kids as we go forward.
Like Leo said earlier, I'm kind of the ideas guy, and then he kind of makes it happen, or kind of steers me in the right direction of like, okay, wait, this is actually how we can do this. Because I have a tendency to go off the rails a little bit with show ideas and like, oh, we should do all these cool things. Um, and he's very good about grounding me sometimes with like, okay, hold on, we don't have, a huge budget to work from, so we can't do like I told him one day I was like, oh, we should do a Tron show and have like all the LEDs out. And he's like, okay, cool. How are we gonna make that work in our budget? And I was like, you're right. Which is not what we're
And,
doing which is not what we're doing for 2026.
and in our
But
division, when we perform in broad daylight, like,
yeah,
hey, come on.
which yeah, again, so the Tron thing is not what we're doing for 2026. Leo is very good about me walking into the band room, and this upcoming season show, I was getting ready for work and saw an Instagram reel, and I walked into the office at like I got there at like 6:15. Leo came in a little bit after, and I was like, "Hey, I know what we're doing for 2026," and it's like September. And he goes, "What?" And I was like, "I know what we're doing for fall 2026." So that's kind of he's very understanding and very like encouraging of me just spouting out ideas. He was not joking. I have a notebook hidden in my desk that has like 12 show ideas in it that are just cooking. The design process started pretty early with Leo and I talking. We try really hard to include something that, along with like this year, the 24/5 show, 24 show, like something the students are going to buy into and really like, something the audience will really like as far as like source music, and then occasionally things that he or I will really like. Which on the jazz side of things, for me personally, that's how I try to like program concerts. It's like, okay, cool. I know the students are gonna like this. I know the audience is gonna like this one, and this one is for me. So trying to tap into that as much as possible to create a complete product. But yeah, the 2026 show concept was talked about between Leo and I in like September before we went to fall break. So yeah.
And if to round it out, perhaps, and finish the answer to the topic, I think from my standpoint, most directors probably have a long list of shows up their sleeve, like ideas that they'd like to try. And we are intentional about trying to find something that's the right fit for the kids so that the students that we have and the budget that we have and the infrastructure and the volunteers that we have, like, right, being pragmatic about those things determines how we try to present it rather than we have these really cool props. Let's do something with them. And it's never quite fully realized or it's not a good fit. So, maybe to clarify the earlier comment about it, like an overlay, I don't want to force anything over the program because we desperately want to try this show. If it's not the right year or we just don't have the pieces of the puzzle to make that work well, then it can sit in the desk and it can cook a little bit longer.
Mhm.
Those are the things that we try to do and stay on task then. So it's organic. It's part of what we're working on, and it's driven by what's working well and what needs more attention.
Well, I mean, I think you guys have a healthy way of looking at a show, and you obviously have a great support system within your band parents and the community there. I happened to be at your championships that you hosted. I was at the Hamilton, and I just thought it was a fantastically run event. I thought the facility was really good, and your parents were just off the charts awesome. So great work
The,
there.
we are so fortunate. The booster board and the general B flat band parent population is so willing to step up and help wherever they are needed, uh, and it's wonderful. We just really can't do any of this alone, and they are partners in all that we do.
Following off of that, do you have any shout outs that you would like to give? You know, you kind of gave one to your parents there, but as we're getting close to being done on time here, we like to give everyone the opportunity to give their shout outs on the podcast.
I would say a huge thank you to the students in the program. The the kids themselves are the drivers of so much of what we do, right? We want to do band for them, not to them. Um, and the student leaders in particular this year have really embraced the idea of service leadership, and they've been fantastic. So, we would shout out the student leadership team, or at least I would. Jason.
Definitely the students and our band parents, especially our booster board because they do a ton. And then looking like a little further outside the band program, our administration at Hamilton is crazy supportive of us. They've gone as far to a couple years ago, we got a full like new line of marching brass instruments from the administration after our first year together, which was really cool. They like will occasionally help pay for buses or things like that to playoff games.
There's
And then
120 brand new music stands in our
yeah,
band room that we have to build next week.
yeah. And then on a more personal note, my wife, who is a band kid, but she understands what we do, and at the same time, it's very like occasionally she goes, "Hey, so am I gonna see you this week?" Jokingly. And then of course, I don't think I would be where I'm at with as a band director without Leo. Um, like 100%.
And the move for me, I've never had an opportunity to work with an associate director, and I know it's a rare thing. So yeah, I'm very grateful for a partner in crime.
Awesome. Well, thanks guys so much for sharing some insights, and again, congratulations on a great fall. We wish you all the best here in your spring semester and beyond.
Hey, thanks guys. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Thanks for
Yeah,
being here.
cheers.
Mhm.
Hey, we're happy to have on the podcast Campo Verde band director Matt Kozak and the president of AZMBA, Class 4A champion. Matt, how are you and how was your weekend? Happy Valentine's Day. Happy regional weekend.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it was a great weekend. We had regionals, of course, along with every other busy high school in the state, and it's a really special weekend. We had, both of my personal kiddos were involved with the regional this year, so that was really fun. And it was my son's birthday, and Julie DeBoer did a great job of celebrating him. That was kind of fun too. So it was a good weekend.
Yeah, we saw that post, or I saw the post online that Julie did. So that's, just another thing of, the director, the guest clinician, like speaking to something that's really important to kids and parents for you and your role as a band parent, and then, bringing that into the rehearsal. I'm sure everyone loved that.
Yeah, it was cool. And my son was a little bit embarrassed, but the funny thing is I asked her if we could do it, for the rehearsal, and she's like, yeah, that sounds great. And then at the concert, she said something too, and he was so embarrassed. It was like, she was like, oh, we celebrated a great weekend, and oh, and happy birthday. And all the audience was just, it was hilarious. But, and I told my son, I'm like, I did not, that was not me. That was all her, but it was fun.
That's cool. What repertoire did Julie pick for your region?
We did Vesuvius by Tekeli. We did Reckoning by Markowski. Let's see, Faust, Festive Dance, and There's one other one that is escaping me right now. Oh, Joy. Joy by Curiel.
Cool. Cool.
Well, just to kind of jump right in here, Matt. I mean, I've known you for quite some time, but maybe you could talk to us about how long you've been at Campo Verde and a little bit about your journey getting there.
Yeah, sure. It's crazy. This is now, I think, year number 12 at Campo Verde. It seems like it just has flown by. It's been great. But yeah, it's a great school to be at. I love the Gilbert District. I love my administration. They've been so supportive in helping build the program. Before that, I was at Basha High School for 9 years. And then prior to that, I was down in your neck of the woods in Casa Grande as a junior high band director at Cactus Middle School, feeding into your program, and learned a lot from you. I take a lot of my a lot of the things that I do and credit you for what you how you mentored me when I was very very young and right into it. And then before that, just graduated at the University of Arizona. Went to high school in the West Valley at Centennial High School. I had Tom Kinnaman was my band director back in the day. He's retired now and everything, but yeah, just kind of a Phoenix area person, but then went down to Tucson and then came back. So
Well, and those were really fun times when you were at Cactus. How many years were you at Cactus? Was it three?
three years, yeah, yeah.
3 years, and I still have a photo in my office of I think it was us at a competition sitting next to each other back when you were on our staff, and my students were like, "What's the Campo Verde band director doing up in your office?" It's kind of funny. It's a conversation starter. So
Yeah, that was probably back when I had a shaved head and pierced ears and all those kind of weird things when I was younger. But yeah,
I think it was back then. Now that I think about it, yes.
yeah.
You could still do a shaved head and pierced ears. Like, let's go. Let's bring back the
I
future.
got to the point where I was like, at some point I'm not going to be able to grow hair, so I may as well do it now when I can. And so got rid of that shaved head look.
Well, and Matt, this season, this podcast is all about, congratulations on being the class champion. So congrats to you and the Campo Verde
Thank
program on
you.
being the class 4A champion. It was awesome. Great job. Talk to us a bit about your show and the success you had last fall.
Yeah, our show was great. It was called Tangled Fate. Originally, it was called Eight, just ATE. We've been lucky enough these last couple of years to work with Jeff Chambers. He's a really great young writer. Does some really really good work, and I try to do something that's really new that nobody has like seen before. So even though it's a show that's been done, it's been done by like maybe one school. And so we did Tangled Fate, or we decided to change it to Tangled Fate, just because we felt like that sounded a little bit better. We wanted it to be a little bit more of a dark, eerie type show, not so like funny or whatever. And
Mhm.
so then just kind of going through it, like designing it with the staff, and Sean Reese wrote the drill for us again this year. He's a great drill writer. He was I remember him when he was in diapers as a little baby, because he was my college band director's son, and he would come around rehearsals and stuff like that. But then he went on and marched drum and bugle corps, and now writes drill out in Florida, and he's awesome. So he did a great job with the drill, and all the props just came together really nice, and everything went really smoothly this year.
So when you're working with your show and the design, just a quick question from me. Do you find music that your arranger has written and you say, "Ooh, I really like this. How can I make this concept work for me?" Or do you look for a concept that he's done that you've liked?
A little bit of both, I guess. He sends us usually just kind of a couple of shows that are not released yet, that he's been working on, or that had been done once, and they're kind of still the raw cuts of it. And he sent us a couple this year also for next year as well. And we're just kind of we like being able to listen to some of the things that he's been doing, and the new things that he's been doing. So he knows our school now that we've done a couple of shows with them, and he knows kind of what we prefer and what our level of musicality is and everything, and sends us some ideas of what he's been doing. But then we also just browse and we listen and try to see what we think is going to be cool, what the kids are going to really like, what the audience is going to like. Just put it together that way.
Where is he based out of?
He's in Washington. He lives up in the Seattle area, and yeah, he does really great work up there, and does some writing for drum and bugle corps and things like that too.
Yeah, really cool. The I was able to see the show live at the 4A championships. Was so impressed. I may have told you this, but if I haven't, it's the best show I saw in the state last year. I just absolutely loved it, and it had all the things, man. It had incredible trumpet soloists. It had a range of music, like it had classical music, it had jazz, it had all the things, and then it had a very special effect at the end where a certain color guard member was talk to us about that situation at the very end.
Yeah, so gosh, that was really fun. So the my daughter, her junior year, she was one of our drum majors, and did an outstanding job with being a drum major. And then she came to me in the off season. She's like, I really think for my senior year, I want to go back to guard, and I want to be a guard captain, and I'd like to contribute to the band that way. And so we kind of talked about it. I'm like, okay, well, let's go through auditions. She still auditioned for drum major, and I said, let's make sure that we have some great drum majors. And sure enough, there was other students that were going to do a fantastic job. So I like to try to meet not only my kid but all the kids. Like if they want to have a certain experience, like I'm not gonna tell them no. Like if they want to try to go to a certain area. So she went back to the color guard, but then as we were designing, we're like, it'd be really cool is if we had kind of a scene at the end where we kill the drum major up on the podium, and obviously took that from Phantom back in the day when they did the death on the podium scene, and so we thought that would be really fun and really cool and really effective. And since Audrey had experience conducting, we thought it'd be kind of fun to bring her forward as like kind of this queen spider and climb up and push him off the podium and then finish conducting the show. And it actually worked out really well already with the sound samples. Like, yeah, because one of the samples in the show was like, oh, here she comes, like from Hall and Oak.
Mhm.
What is it? Yeah, Hall and Oaks. Their man eater. And so at the very end, there's a here she comes, and we're like, yeah, that's perfect. I mean, it works out perfect. Like the voice is saying this, and then she can be crawling up the podium at that time, and so it's just really really fun to put that together.
Well, and she really performed that well too. My family saw that performance at U of A Band Day, and that was actually kind of the thing that they talked about is how she just had the look and could tell what her motivation was going up on the podium. That she really just maxed that out.
Yeah, she owned it. She like looked at the crowd and did the little across she was gonna kill the drum major and got their attention and everything. So yeah, she was quite a little diva in that moment. It was awesome.
So
Yeah, and that was something that struck me is the believability was there. So sometimes you see shows and it's the acting, I guess, isn't quite there. So talk to us about that a bit. I thought to a kid it seemed like your students really owned their performer role, and they were super believable, and the effectiveness of that was well because um, we could buy into it. And as an actor, do you do any sort of training of the kids in that way?
Oh yeah, for sure. Really, I got to give a shout out to Caitlin Mish and Mark Chacon. They're on our visual team, and they do, and Gabe as well, but they do a lot of like, here's the character that we're going to be representing, and working with the kids on their facial expressions, and at the end of the movements, they'd throw their horns down, and she's like, I gotta see your teeth, I gotta see your teeth, and yelling at the kids. And so they're like, "Arr," and just trying to make sure that they're overdoing it with the emotions. But they do a really great job on the field during rehearsal to like say, hey, let's make sure the audience knows what we're going for here. So yeah.
Yeah, so that was a dark show. So for next fall, do you have more of like a lighthearted thing, joy, like joy everlasting or something?
Yeah, it's completely opposite actually. Like it's not dark at all. It's very very beautiful, very like emotional, pretty. I don't want to give too much away yet, but it's going to be a very very stark difference to what we did this year. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
getting the students to commit to a show is not the easiest thing in the world. I think a lot of bands would like to get their students to commit more. Do you feel like that happened like right off the bat immediately, or did it slowly come to, or how did that progression work?
With this show in particular, I think at first when they heard it and we were, it had weaved in Itsy Bitsy Spider with, some of the other tunes that were in there. They didn't really see the vision yet. So they were kind of like, oh man, this is like nursery rhyme of a show. They didn't really get it yet. But as it would go, I would say just as the show progressed and they got to hear more of like what it's actually going to sound like, and then also see the props and see, where we were going with things, then they were like, okay. And then they kind of understood. And so we definitely took time talking about that in rehearsal, though, about like what direction the show is going and making sure that they could buy into that. And the kids are great. I mean, the Campo kids are great. They understand now after several years of the culture that we're trying to build, like buying into things, and they know that their role is really important, that they have to bring it to life. We're going to design the show and have a really, great product, but they're the ones who actually have to do it and bring it to life. So they understand that.
What, thinking ahead now towards, well, this spring and then, also for next fall, do you have any goals? Where do you go from here? So what are the next steps that you want to take with your band?
Well, I mean, probably our biggest goal is just to continue building and growing. We're still, I would say, relatively small for, what we envision and what we want to do. We'd love to be able to, go to some of these bigger BOA regionals and such. We just don't quite feel like we're large enough. I know that kind of seems, that's one of those things that people say. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter the size, but I think realistically, if you go out to some of these big shows, you're going to see bands of 200, 250 members, and it's just difficult to compete when you have 71 on the field. We were 3A size this year competing in 4A. And so we would like to just grow. We'd like to get a little bit bigger and continue our recruiting efforts. So I'd say like right now we're really focusing on recruitment, and the kids are going out and, talking to friends, and we're going to the junior highs, and we're doing as much as we can to recruit kids into the program. And then, hopefully we can just grow in size.
Yeah, do you have a projection for next year where you think your numbers will lie or not yet?
Not quite. I think we're going to grow a bit because we did have a little bit of a smaller senior class. There was only about 12 seniors on the field this last year. I think we'll get bigger. I just don't know how much bigger.
Yeah.
So as you have all of this success, and we see the finished product and these awesome performances, is there something that the spectators maybe don't see within your program that you feel makes a really big difference on the field?
Yeah, I would think, I mean, one of the biggest things that we focus on is positive motivation and, positive rewards and such to help get the kids moving and growing. And the audience doesn't really see that. I don't think many people would know that about our program unless they came to our practices. But we're really big, when I got to Campo, the school already had this culture of positive rewards. And at first I was like, I don't know about this stuff, like I was raised more in a military household, and at Basha, I definitely ran it very strict and, I guess wasn't as empathetic / positive as I could have been. But like it really changed me as an educator showing up to Campo Verde, our PE department in particular. And you would think like, that sounds counterintuitive that, the jocks are the ones that are really doing this on our campus, but they would do this activity called, filling buckets at the end of PE class, or at the end of weightlifting class, or at the end of their sport team. They would get together and do this. And what that means is the kids would raise their hand, and they call on them, and then they would stand up and say, I want to fill Johnny's bucket because today he did a PR on his weightlifting, and I've seen him working really hard these last couple of weeks in the gym, and I just want to give him a shout out. And then everybody claps for him, and then those kids sit down, and the next bucket gets filled. And so again, at first I'm like, I don't know, that's kind of fluffy for me, right? But it was when you start doing that with your kids, like they buy into it hardcore, and they celebrate each other, and they're like, especially I tell the upperclassmen, I'm like, make sure those lowerclassmen feel the love when they first start. This is brand new to them, and they don't know how to do it. And so if you celebrate them and you say, hey, like you came a long ways today with your marching technique. Awesome job. And that makes that freshman just glow, you know? And so I think that a lot of times the audience wouldn't see like that cultural side of what we try to do with the positive motivations.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like shout outs. Do you call it filling the bucket then with the band also? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
we do bucket filling, and then every week we do some spotlights. Like when we give out a game ball every week to the kid who's just been killing it, and we spotlight them. So then I go, what the spotlight is, they stand up next to me, and then we go around the room, and everybody raises their hand. They get to, tell them what, how much they mean to them, and all that kind of stuff. So it's great.
Tell us more about the game ball.
I stole that from U of A actually. The Pride of Arizona does a game ball after football games, and they award it to just somebody who's been doing a great job. And so we had our boosters make these little footballs that say like Coyote Pride on them, put our logo on them, have them printed on there and such. And um, yeah, every Friday night after football games, or if we don't have a game, it's after a competition. But we try every week to do a game ball and call the kid up and give them the game ball for the week, and then take their picture, post it on the socials and all that. So
I love that. Well, here at the end of our time together, could you give out any, could you, is there someone that you could shout out or fill the bucket of, or any game balls that you'd like to give out here as we finish up the pod?
yeah, no, I'm just thankful for the entire staff at Camp Verde, the music writing to the drill writing to all of the instructional staff. We have a great staff that supports the vision, and they're so awesome to work with. I can just let them do their job. We give them time to just do their job, and they take the kids off and do visual blocks or do guard blocks and stuff, and allows me to just be a director of everything instead of being in charge of everything. So that's kind of nice. So big shout out to the staff. Obviously my family, both of my kids, my wife, like, just really supportive, being involved with the program now. All of us are involved with the program very heavily. Both of the kids are in the program, and my wife's part of the booster board and stuff now. And so everybody's just really supportive of me and Camp Verde. So definitely want to shout them out. And then, yeah, I just think aside from that, all of my mentors, all of my band directors, Jay Reese, Tom Kinnaman from back in the day, Jill Mahoney, everybody just kind of helped push me to where I am today. So.
Matt, we appreciate you coming on the podcast today and sharing your journey with us. That's was really great to hear. We wish you the best of luck on the rest of your semester. To all of our fans, please join us for our next episode. It's titled "The Director's Cut: Leading the Design Process as a Director."
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.